Hello and welcome to the OTB channel. Today I'm going to do something very different. I'm not going to look at Linux, I'm going to look at an entirely different operating system. It's called Haiku and it's open source and it's free, it's in active development and I'm really enjoying it. So see you after the intro. Okay, welcome back. You can tell I've still got this throat thing, but I was starting to get worried, but everybody seems to be contracting it at the moment, so it's obviously just something that's going around. Anyway, I'm going to push on. I'm looking at Haiku today, and normally I'm a Linux dedicated channel. I've done the odd meander into BSD, but I rarely deviate from Linux. This week, though, I've been looking at, what I could perhaps do for this video. And to be honest, I didn't see anything that interested me. So I started spreading my wings a little further, looking at React OS and then Haiku. And I thought with Haiku, well, let's install it. Let's see what I think. And actually, I've been quite impressed. It's a little bit like a rabbit hole because I don't know what I'm doing. I've probably spent about 8 or 9 hours having a play with it so far, just in VirtualBox. But I think it's an interesting concept. And I thought I'd show you where I've got to with it and give you the option to have a play as well, because I think it has potential. It's still at a very early beta, 0.4 something, I think it is. But it is actually quite usable. And sometimes it's good for you to break out of your, the box that you've got used to, whether you're a Windows user or a Linux user. After a while, both operating systems become very familiar. You know how to do everything, and you're looking for a challenge. Maybe this is my latest challenge. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the Haiku website, and we'll go from there. So you should see the Haiku website, haiku-os.org, in front of you now, just to the right of me. And I was wrong, it's not 0.4, it's actually beta 3 that we've got to now. It's been in development for a long time. It was originally based on the old BeOS operating system from the 1990s, which is long since gone, I'm afraid. The 1990s was a fairly creative time for operating systems, and Haiku took over as a free and open source version of BeOS, and it's been in development, I believe, since 2001, so over 20 years, and we're still only at beta 3, which is a long development cycle, I'm afraid. But nevertheless, it's getting to a stage, I think, where it's become pretty usable. It's a single user operating system. And what that means is it's not Linux. It's nothing like Linux. You essentially have root access as a normal user, which feels very strange to me, I've got to say. But nevertheless, I thought I'd give it a go. What does it say about what it is? Well, as you can see from the website, it's open source and under constant development. It's specifically targeting personal computers, so it's not about servers. It's simple and easy to use for users of all levels, and it's unique in many ways. The project is a single team that writes everything from the kernel, the drivers, user land services, toolkit and graphics stack. So absolutely everything is written by one team. Now that doesn't mean that you can't run apps that you're familiar with. So you do find some of the apps that we use in Linux within Haiku, but there's a lot of apps that are very much specific to this particular operating system. So what I did, I downloaded it. I and you've got the option of downloading a 32-bit or a 64-bit. It comes down, it's under a gig. It comes down pretty quickly. I think it was 700 and something gig in total. And I fired it up in VirtualBox. Now, clearly, you've got no standard menus in VirtualBox. So when it came to selecting the operating system, I just selected other and then other 64-bit. And it booted fine. So without further ado, let us go over and see what I've done. This is a bit of a strange video because in a way I feel very uncomfortable with this operating system simply because I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm going down the rabbit hole trying to find stuff out. So this is a first look. I'm sure I'm going to miss stuff and I'm going to get lots of things wrong. And I'm sure many of the comments are going to point out where I've gone wrong. And to be honest, that'll be really helpful because this is just what I've found out about the system so far. So without further ado, let's boot it up, take it from there. So I'm afraid you'll just have to excuse the lack of full screen resolution at the moment as I go through the installer on Haiku? I'm not quite sure. But as you boot, you'll get a little splash screen and then it will take you to this select your language interface. It's already on English, as you can see, but the key map is down as US International. I want to change that to UK. So there we go. I'm going to select that as United Kingdom. And then I get the option to try out Haiku or install it. Now, I've done this a couple of ways over the last week. I have tried it out, and after trying it out, I've tried to install it, and it's not really worked. So I'm just going to select the install Haiku option and click continue. And it rightly says I've got no partitions at the moment, which I haven't. I've got a raw VirtualBox hard drive. So I'm going to click set up partitions, and as you can see, I've got my 32 gig virtual hard drive there. So if I just right click on that and select format, and I believe the one that I should choose, although I have the option of FAT32 or NT there as well, is I'm going to select the BE file system. I'm going to click continue. My mouse isn't great at the moment, I have to say. And I'm going to select format and then write changes. And apparently that's the disk formatted, so that's really quick. I'm going to shut that down. I'm now going to choose the partition that I've just formatted, and I'm going to select begin. And away it goes, and the install is incredibly quick. So that's Haiku installed. All I need to do now is reboot and start setting things up. Now, in terms of getting full HD 1920 by 1080, what I have found is when I reboot, there isn't an option for 1920 by 1080. However, there is an option to install the virtual editions in the software package. But to be honest, it didn't really help. What I ended up doing was simply using the VBox manage command to add an additional resolution of 1920 by 1080 to the VESA driver. And once I'd done that, I got a full HD display. So I'm going to take you to that in a minute. I've done a little bit of playing already, and I'll show you what I've found. Right, so here we are at the Haiku screen that you get, and it looks very different to the standard Linux system. You have some icons here on the desktop, including your hard disk here, so I can click on that, and it opens up a file explorer with 3 folders, essentially: home, system, and trash. You have a link to the B book, I haven't actually clicked on this, but I assume essentially it's a web interface. Yes, it is. That will tell you all about the old BE operating system. You have a link to home, which interestingly has 3 very different files there: config, desktop, and mail, not what you would normally see in a home directory on Linux. And you have the option to do a quick tour here, which is also opening up a web browser. The web browser by default is a browser called Web Positive, and it essentially takes you through all the different bits and pieces. So you can go to the desk bar, you can go into real detail on all the bits and pieces, and I have found it really useful. I've spent a fair bit of time looking through this. You then have a more complete user guide. My mouse still isn't absolutely brilliant on VirtualBox, but you can see you've got links here to quite a lot of information. There's enough here to get you started, and then finally you've got your trash can. The one thing that I have noticed before we start is that there doesn't seem an option anywhere, even through a right-click menu, to snap these icons to like a grid format. So they tend to be just where you put them, which I would prefer some sort of grid format, to be honest, but it is what it is. Maybe I'm just missing something and I don't know it enough. This is just a first look, by the way. I've only just started going down the rabbit hole to understand how all of this works. So there's your basic desktop icons. Up here, you have, well, essentially what is a menu system. You have the feather there, and if you right-click that, you get your main menu. And you'll notice here that you've got a find menu there, about Haiku, replicants. I'll describe what replicants are at the moment. You've got an option to mount various partitions, I presume, and desktop or desk bar preferences. And this is your desk bar. What do you want it to do? We've got the tracker listed first there. The tracker, by the way, is your file manager. And if I click on that, you could already see that I actually have a couple of file manager windows open. If you wanted to minimize them, you just double click them again. So not huge amount of detail there. You can increase the icon size of the various things that you've got docked on your menu. So this is like a dock, really, and this just lists the windows you've got open. And here we have something that looks very much like a system tray with the time and date. I don't know what that is, to be honest. Oh, that's the volume. Okay. That is your network. And what is this? This seems to bring up just another menu. Quit an application. What's the memory usage? Okay. That's quite handy. Threads and CPU usage by various different components. Okay, all good. I like that. But the main thing here is this, your feather menu, for want of a better term. So along with what we've just gone through, you've also got a shutdown menu to power off and restart, recent documents, recent folders, recent applications, and then an application menu. Probably the first thing that you're going to want to do when you install Haiku is update your software. And that's under Applications and Software Updater. And it goes out and it checks for updates. No updates were found for me. When I first installed it, it had 91 updates available. I just let them all install. It didn't take very long, a few minutes, and then I rebooted and all was good. The thing that I really like though, and I wasn't aware it did this, you have an application in here called Haiku Depot, should I say. And this is like your software store or your GUI package manager. And in here, you will find all the various packages that are ready to install from the Haiku repos. There's some featured packages there if you just want to look through them. And I've installed a few bits and pieces from here, or you can have a look at all packages. In terms of VirtualBox, I will just search for that, and you can see that VirtualBox guest editions are available. What I actually found is it certainly didn't allow me to do a full HD display, and in fact it stopped me from changing the resolution at all from anything other than 1280. So I uninstalled them and started from scratch. But essentially, Haiku Depot, it's pretty good. Refresh the repositories when you first open it. It did sort a few problems, and I've installed quite a lot of stuff. One of the things that I have installed is the entire LibreOffice pack. And if I just open Writer there, it takes a little while to open, but you'll see exactly what I mean. Here we go. So all of LibreOffice Writer or LibreOffice is installed, so that's all good. And I go up here. It seems a little bit weird to shut it down, but it's actually up here. I click on that to shut it down. What else have I installed? I've installed something called DocBert, and that's a dock a little bit like Plank. I've had a little bit of a play with this. I quite like it. Haven't yet figured out how to change the size of it. I'd like it to be a little bit smaller, or how to change the colours. But yeah, generally speaking, I do enjoy it. I've also installed some additional wallpapers. And what else have I installed on here? I'm just looking. Oh yeah, I've installed the Falcon web browser. So if I click on that, that should open up in a second. I didn't actually see anything like the Firefox web browser, so maybe that's not actually available for Haiku. But actually, this web positive browser seems to be pretty good to me. So I've just dragged some of the open applications that I'd had open before into this central part. So I've got the option to open a terminal. Haiku does use Bash, and I've dragged the package manager there. I've dragged LibreOffice right there, and I've also dragged the web positive browser. So you can see as I'm opening up each of these, if I double click on them, they essentially minimize, and they just minimize to there. If I wanted to open them up again, there I go. Let's just open one of the tracker windows that I've got open, because there's a couple of things that you can actually do in Haiku, which I think are quite interesting. They have what they call a stacking mode and a tiling mode. So let's have a look at the stacking mode to start off with. If I hold down the Windows key and I drag this particular terminal, it's not, of course, doing it now. There we are. I drag the terminal onto the other window. What it actually does is it creates a tabbed interface. It can be any app at all. I quite like the fact that it does that, and of course you can resize them together. That's brilliant. If I wanted to separate them, again, I just hold down the Windows key and move them apart. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller again, because there's another option here that they call the tiling mode. The tiling mode, again, joins two apps, but if I hold down the Windows key and I butt them up together, all of a sudden, once again, they work in tandem. And if I try to expand them, they expand in tandem. It's an interesting concept, the way that that works, and I've not exactly seen that done before. So that's all good. So let me just double click on that to shut that down and double click the terminal. Well, not shut it down, but to actually put it into this tracker. Initially, I didn't think that I could move this tracker about. I couldn't see any way to actually change its size or change its position. But yesterday I came across a web page when I was doing my Google searches, and I've done a lot of Google searches for this, and there's little kind of knobbly edges to this almost system tray. And if you point the little finger towards the knobbly edges, and it's a bit tricky, I can make it bigger. Not that I particularly want to do that. But if I go to the right one, I can change position, drag it where I want, or actually have it as just a smaller bar. I actually quite like this look where I can literally click on that rather than having all of the minimized apps showing up. I just have them all compressed into that. I still have my menu there, and I now have my system tray, for want of a better word, all nicely together. I like the way it looks. Yeah, so it's been a case of constantly finding things out with this. I did want some things to auto start, and it took me a little while to figure out how to do that. And so what I did, I've got a bookmark here. I did a Google search and I came across a particular page. This isn't the only way to do things, by the way, but if you want something to auto start, this is just a little bit slow at the moment. This is opening up a page on the Haiku community, discusshaiku.os.org. I don't know, maybe that's a forum or something. And it told me how to auto start a program. It doesn't seem to want to actually load at the moment, and I'm not quite sure why. Let's just see. Not sure why that's happening. I'm pretty sure that I am indeed connected to the internet. Let's try the Falcon browser and see if it makes any difference with that. Right, let's see if that opens up the page. That's really weird. That particular page doesn't seem to be available at the moment. Am I actually connected to the internet? Now there's a good one. So auto start apps in Haiku. Yeah, I apparently am connected to the internet. Okay. Anyway, doesn't really matter. The way that you do it, I'm just going to go to my tracker, and you open two windows essentially. One of the windows you open is the launch window, which you can find. Now, let me see if I remember this from your config, settings, boot, launch interface. You just open that up. I know it's weird. The directory structure is not what I expect. And then the other window that you open up is your apps window, which, if I remember correctly, is system, apps. Yeah, and there we go. And essentially what you do is you just pull whatever you want to pull here. Let's say the Haiku depot. You right click and you drag it across, and you create a link there. And what actually happens is that will then start up each time that you start the system. It's not the only way to do it. There are lots of different ways to do things here in Haiku, and I'm really quite enjoying finding out about everything. So let's go back to my menu. So all my applications are there. What have I managed to install? A few things. Falcon, as I've said. Oh, I also installed Critter. For some reason, the GIMP wouldn't install. So far, that is the only package that I've had problems with installing. Don't know why it wouldn't install. Have I installed anything else? No, I don't think I have at the moment. It comes with Nano out of the box, but you can install Vim as well. You can install them from the package manager, or I think it's PKMan. I'm just having a look. PKG Man. So this is the command line version. Install Vim. So let's try and install something from the command line. Do I want to install it? Yes, I do. And it's downloading Vim now. Comes in a different package format to anything I've been used to, HPKG, and it's all done. So if I open up Vim now, there we are. Vim is installed. What I haven't figured out how to do yet is how to create config files in Haiku for my own settings. I have read somewhere that you simply create a .config directory in your home directory and then put your own configuration files in there, but that is something I'm still exploring. What else have I done? Let's have a look. If I go into the preferences section, you will see that there is a background section. It doesn't come with any additional wallpapers here, but I did actually install a wallpapers package, which if I set to other, was called Unsplash. And if I go to space, let's have a look at the different ones that I've got here. Okay, I think I quite like that. Let me select it and let me scale to fit and apply. Right. Okay, so that's the backgrounds applied. What else have I found in here in the preferences section? There is an appearance section. It seems to be, your standard fonts and font sizes. There's a color section, which I haven't played with yet, but I'm going to. There's a look and feel section, asking about what decorator do you want to use, the default, flat or B. I wonder what difference it makes if I go flat. Well, that's obviously triggered this. Let's see what that actually does once it's finished with it. Well, that was exciting. So it completely crashed on me. So I have installed an extra package, and I thought I'd go back to that, and it's actually called a theme manager. And I opened up this, and you're not seeing this on the video because I had another crash, but the theme manager offered me some additional options here, and you could go through these and hit apply. I chose the dark flat, and after choosing the dark flat, it again crashed on me. And I had to kind of release my mouse and come out and manually stop the virtual machine and restart it 2 times. But after restarting it 2 times, it came up, and actually it now has quite a nice dark theme. Perhaps a little bit buggy, that process, but nevertheless, we got there in the end. So it's got potential. I'm in the middle of that rabbit hole, and I'm going to work on it and find out a little bit more about this system. I'm finding it fascinating, to be honest. The big thing that I want to change the colours on this Dogbert. I think it's called Dogbert. Yes, it is, or Docbert, should I say. And get that to a size that I like. I've now got a theme applied, albeit after a few issues, shall we say. But I get the feeling that this is very much going to keep me busy for the next few weeks. But before the chat, I just remembered I said I'd show you what these replicants are all about. So the replicants, let's pick something here. I'm just trying to find something. Let's go for something like, I don't know, a desk calculator. So there's the desk calculator. What a replicant is if a particular app you open has this little marker down here on the right, you can actually click on that, drag it away, and it will create an embedded version of that application on your desktop. So that is a replicant. And you can remove it dead simply. So I quite like that as well. In terms of demos, I'm not quite sure what these are yet. I haven't looked and I don't want to cause another crash. But we do have some desktop applicants here. Let's have a look. If I hit, I don't know, network status. Okay, it is what it is. Obviously just little applets that you can put on the desktop. Right, I think enough is enough for today. Let's go and have that chat now. Right, so that's Haiku. I'm really enjoying the experience of discovering something new, I have to say. And so far, I'm quite impressed. What I do know is I am going to keep my virtual machines of Haiku on the go, and I'm going to find out more about it to see what I can do. So far, apart from obviously the bug when I was changing themes, everything worked pretty smoothly. In fact, the first time that I've tried to change themes to that dark mode was when I've just done it. And it just shows you should practice things before you before you video them. So that was a first time thing, and it all froze up and it crashed. But when I rebooted, everything seemed to be fine. I'm not entirely familiar with how to change the colors and size of that dock. I'm sure there's a way to get the desktop icons to snap to a grid or to just get rid of them altogether. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. I need to find out how to add my own configuration files for the likes of Ranger and Vim. I need to find out also how to change the icon set. So, for example, I do see that Breeze icons are in the repos. I don't know how to apply them. So it's very early days, but first impressions are quite positive. There's been a lot of Google searches to get where I am, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the process. So just something a little bit different today that I thought you might enjoy, and you perhaps might enjoy having a play with yourself. That's going to be it for today, guys. Once again, thanks very much for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, or join my existing Patreons, which are these wonderful people that you see on the side here. Thanks for that, guys. Have a great weekend. See you next week.